Okay, so I think we'll start the call. So I'd like to welcome Toscano. Andres is going to start the presentation and introduce the Toscano Combi Pro Max for the Irish market. So over to you guys. Thanks for joining.
So thank you for inviting us. So a quick introduction of our company. We are a company located in Spain, in the south, in Sevilla. Can you hear me and can you see me well? I guess. I don't know if you...
We can see you. We can hear you.
Okay. So this is a family-owned business with plus 50 years working on the industrial market. At the beginning, we started doing small automation for industrial water management. But because we are curious people, let's say, and we like to design and implement whatever we find on the market that could be interesting to apply in other fields, we jump to the electrical protection side, as we were kind of related to protection on water pumping system. So that's, let's say, the two sides of our company. We have the side of the water control and management and the electrical grid protection side. As I said, it is a family-owned business. It was founded by my grandfather. Right now, it's my father in charge of the company. I am Luis Toscano, and I am the CTO, the technical manager for the company. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so for our last innovation, even though we've been selling this for 3 years, but right now it's getting more popular. It is a compact system for backup solution. So in case you lose power, it is able to quickly disconnect the house and tell the inverter to go off grid. And by doing this, you also comply with everything needed to work as an isolated installation. So it is a regular MCB, like the main switch of the installation, but it has a motor inside, so it is automatically driven. It also includes this is based on a protector that we produce, which is an overvoltage protector that in case you have more than 275 volts, it will disconnect the installation from the grid to protect in case of an overvoltage. In case there is a power blackout, it will disconnect and wait until the power restores to a regular level, to a normal level, a proper level. So based on this, we made this kind of backup solution that could be fitted with the inverter. So you are able to change between on-grid, off-grid isolation. So you have a MCB, which can be up to 63 amps, but we are planning to have more than 80 amps this year. But it can be the regular switches that you find on the panel of an installation. It is also an overvoltage protector, and it also takes care on all the disconnection of the installation, so you're not isolated. Connect neutral and ground, so you give a 0 volts reference to the inverter, and then tell the inverter that you are off grid, so you are able to operate as an isolated power generator, let's say. Roughly speaking, you can consider that you have a disconnection over 275 below 170. You can trip backup in both cases. Let's say that every time you have a non-standard voltage level or non-normal level, it will trigger the backup solution. So next slide. Okay. It is compatible with the battery, even though this is something that needs to be it is on the side of the inverter. some inverters allows you to connect the backup, to activate the backup without battery. Some of them are mandatory to have the battery, so you are able to configure the backup, the automatic switching, let's say. From our side, from our point of view, we recommend to have the battery, because there are few installations that may behave good while not having battery and changing between off grid on grid with backups, with this backup solution. But usually it is something that will trigger that will set the overconsumption protections on the inverter, so it will disconnect and reconnect again, and then discover again that it doesn't have the enough power to power up the installation. It is also, let's say that this is something that you will have in the panel of the installation. So let's say that the household or the person around will be let's say touching, and maybe there is a failure, they will try to move the handle, or maybe there is a technician and they want to install a plug or something that need to be needs some kind of maintenance. You will disconnect, and let's say that, for example, you in that case you lose power. So at the beginning you may say that this might trigger the backup, but in this case it is not, because we know if the intention was because there was a user moving the handle and disconnecting the power. We know when it was an overconsumption, an overcurrent on the NCB. So in that case, it won't trigger the backup, but it only triggers the backup just in the situation where you lose power from the mains, and it remembers the very last situation when this happened. So you are always covered in case there is someone that disconnects the installation and suddenly a blackout came, or if there is an overload power consumption, it won't activate. Or we have this equipment for 3 years, as I said. This will be the 4th year on the market, and we thought a lot on every single situation that might be that shouldn't be a trigger to activate the backup solution in the inverter, and everything is well covered, and we have many different systems to be sure that the things that happen and the decision taken by the device are securely let's say securely decided, let's say. Okay, next. So this will be the main like the standard installation or the standard diagram. You use it can be the main switch, but in case you activate in case you lose power, it is just like something that disconnect the house and make an isolated installation in the connection on the downside. So for let's say that the regular installation, or at least the most common in our surrounding in Spain, but because maybe we have a lot of sun or enough sun to have this, will be to replace the main switch and place this device and connect it to the inverter. But you can set an easy configuration also for critical loads, non-critical loads, just by considering that everything connected on the upper side will be non-critical, and everything on the downside, as once you lose power, it will stay isolated. So everything on the downside is under this backup situation, making an island with the inverter. And the connection that you see here in red are just the two wires needed for communicate with the inverter, which is a dry contact. So you don't need thick wiring or whatever. You just do the partition, as I said before, for critical, non-critical, or in case you go for a full backup. You just place everything on the downside and use it as the main switch up to 63 amps. And using usually at least in Spain, but I think it's most in most cases of like in Europe, you use a TPU communication cable, so you always have some spare wires in there. You can use those wires, and you can just use two of those wires to connect and communicate between the inverter and the backup Combi Pro Max to tell now we are isolated. Now we work as an isolated installation, as a uh, power isolated plan. Let's say. Okay, next slide. Okay. Oh. Okay, so here you see the connection. As I said, using the TPU usually for the smart meter. Oh, I lost the. Okay. So usually when you use a smart meter, you use a TPU communication cable. Usually you have some spare communication, so you just pick two of them and use it. Two for the smart meter and the communication for the power consumption, and two for the connection for on-grid, off-grid, backup on, backup off. So how these happen on an installation? Okay. So those are the terminal connection, as you see there. What is the procedure for this device to operate? Okay, next. Okay, so if there is less than 100 volts, I said before 170, but it is 100. If there is less than 100 volts, it will isolate the house. It will connect neutral and PE, and it will tell the backup to start working, to the inverter. And in case you have more than 200 volts, after 3 minutes, because we have to wait for the grid to be stable, we take our step back and we tell the inverter that now you are not off grid, so backup is not connected. We will talk later about the neutral and the PE connection, which might be not needed in your case, but nevertheless, I don't see here. It depends on the situation. We have many different situations that could be happening, but we will discuss later. And after the backup signal is disconnected, we reconnect the installation to the house. It is something that the switching time from on-grid, off-grid, backup on, backup off, it is around 0.5 seconds. And because we include another voltage protector, in case you have the small table that you see here is for the European regulation for over voltage protection. So if you have, let's say, plus 300 volts, it will trip in between. It will disconnect to protect the electrical installation. It will disconnect the electrical installation in between 1 to 5 seconds. Yeah. So as I said, the device is it monitors when it was intentional or non-intentional, the handle movement, let's say. So if you open manually the NCB on this device, or there is an overload or a short circuit on the device, it won't trip the backup. As we understand that there might be a failure or might be someone doing some maintenance, or you just disconnected, so it is your decision as end user or technician to disconnect, so it won't trip the backup in that case. Also, we have, as I said before, we have many different points where we are able to tell this. So it is not like we have just one step to be ensuring that it was intentional or not. It is like the sum of many different parts of the device. One is with software, another is with hardware. We have multiple side on the hardware, just to be sure that everything is under the intentional or non-intentional handling of the NCB. Also, if you see, there is a small module on the right side of the device. This works on the contrary as the MCB. So when it is connected, it is opening the neutral PE connection, and when you are on an isolated installation with backup working, it is connected. So you won't have any problem with the RCDs in that case, because you will be still protected. Okay. So also, it is just Huawei. No, we have many different others. Right now we are about to add, but nevertheless you can ask us about the whole list of inverter. But this is like the brands that we are working with and which are available right now. Those are the inverters. So those are the thing. But if you can, this is the one that were certified with the inverter manufacturer. But if you have an inverter which through a dry contact you are able to tell you are on grid or you are off grid, so trigger the inverter, it might be possible. So it is something that we can take a look in case there is something that could be under that situation. This is an example for the communication in case of Huawei. Most of the devices that we sell are installing in Huawei inverters. But as I said, you saw the whole list. We work with directly with all of them to see which inverter are and to get validation from them. So you can be sure on every single one of the brands on the previous slide. Okay. Also, in case of Huawei for the configuration for the backup, automatic switching backup. So you just go to the Fusion Solar app and you go for the enable off grid, just like the backup box or the smart guard solution, and you just tell that you enable the off grid and your backup box model is a compatible third-party backup box, and that's all. And it is something that for installing this, I'm not the most quicker electrician, let's say, and I installed the one at my house. Really, it was a prototype, but it is something that it takes around 15 to 20 minutes for someone like me, and the configuration is very easy in case of Huawei. But there is no much difference between any other brands on configuration, because it is just telling that the inverter go off grid in case those two contacts are connected. So everything is very easy and very quick to implement. Okay. as I said, super easy to install, super quick to to deploy on an installation, new or with retro compatibility. Go to an already working installation and decide which circuits are on the critical loads just connected on the downside with the inverter, which loads which circuits are connected as non-critical, so you install it on the upper side. That's the main thing. So you just go to an installation, decide which is on the downside, which is on the upper side. Using the small two wiring, you don't need to have like thicker power lines through in between the inverter to the main panel and so on. You just decide which goes to what side, and just for communication, these two small wires, as I said, it is a small, it is a dry contact, so you don't need a power line for that. And as many installations, you just use the communication spare wires that you have on the cable of the TPU in between the smart meter and the inverter. Manual disconnection button. Okay, as I said before, it is a device which has memory on what the intention was. So it knows when it was a blackout, not when it was the electrician, the technician, or the household, whatever the person who switched. It knows that it is disconnected intentionally. And under every single situation that might be out of the automatic backup or the proper automatic backup, we thought on it and we add multiple steps to check that this is something intentional, so or this is something that may trigger the backup. Also, there are other backup solutions. Let's say that the spirit is the same, but usually they use something like a contactor or big relays or something like that. We don't like that, and we prefer to use a proper NCB, which will comply with all the electrical isolation that is guaranteed on the NCB. So you can be sure that it is like implementing the smart solution to an already trusted and reliable solution as the switch on every single installation or every single electrical installation. Okay. Local regulation. This is empty. Don't know if Andres.
I might take over on this, Lewis, and just add some slides for the local regulation, and then I'll hand it back to you again.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to add a few small video clips and points for the Irish market. I'll just hit play here on this one.
Okay.
So I don't know if everyone is able to see that clearly, that video.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So in the Safe Electric newsletter released in December, a focus on the use of automatic changeover switches, Safe Electric made some clarifications. If I just go through quickly, the first one was a cert tree would be required for the installation. They also mentioned that it's important that there is a protective earth neutral connection or neutralizing link in both off-grid and on-grid mode. And on the Combi Pro Max, when it does switch down, the earth and neutral are connected. So all circuits supplied in island mode must be RCD protected. This is something they clarified in December as well. And in the last paragraph here, they mentioned that load shedding may need to be considered in island mode. For example, in single-phase microgenerators may only have a maximum backup output of approximately 25 amps and may not be suitable for large loads such as electric cookers. So I think, Lewis, you guys would probably have full home backup. I think our regulator is suggesting that we have a critical loads and non-critical loads split down the middle.
Okay, well, in that case, it's just considering the 25 amps MCB, and you see that everything connected downside will be critical loads. Yeah.
And one of the last points then was a main isolating switch to be provided for every installation located within 2 meters of the main supply point. Now, what they're suggesting for this is in the ESB cabinet, so it's clause 462.2 requires that a main isolating switch be provided. Verbally, we've had this on test for about 2 months with some installers out there, and Safe Electric have called out to those installations. Verbally, they prefer an auxiliary contactor, which is physically connected to the main cutoff. I guess, another option would be an emergency stop button. But the auxiliary contactor is preferred. Many inverters, they have a rapid shutdown pin, which is activated on short-circuiting the pins. However, this would need to be inverted as your auxiliary contactor is normally closed. So you can do this by updating the firmware on the Huawei inverter and the Fusion Solar app. And there's a new setting in there under rapid shutdown called system shutdown, which means that the shutdown is operated on an open contact. Something that's not really mentioned in the newsletter from Safe Electric is the use of bidirectional RCBOs. So because the inverter is now acting as a generator, the RCBO is working essentially in reverse. So therefore, it's critical that the RCBO is bidirectional. If you use a unidirectional RCBO, which would be pretty much the majority of RCBOs out there in the market, the RCBO will actually short circuit and burn out. So I have a small video here that I'm going to show you on a unidirectional RCBO being used in reverse, which is in backup mode. Okay, so this essentially applies to when you're using backup mode only. It's not for using an inverter in normal operation, whether it's charging off the grid at night time and providing power back to the house in the daytime. This is solely for backup mode, essentially where the inverter is now the generator and there's 230 on the opposite side of the RCPO and 0 volts on the board side. So again, it's something to be mindful of. I'll hand it back to you, Lewis, so I'll continue your presentation here.
Okay.
So I think we're on. Okay, so here we go.
The one in the video that you showed, just a small bracket. It doesn't burn out that violently. I don't know how to pronounce, but
Yeah.
You pick a conservative one in case of burning. Let's say we test here in Toscano in the company right now in my house, but it burns. It takes fire. Absolutely. So in case of the neutral connection, automatic neutral connection to the ground of our case, you may think that you may lose the reference for ground to be protected by RCD. So don't know if Andres.
Yes, I think I can take the presentation from that point.
Okay.
So I would like to show you some of the more frequent asks we have from our customer care department. So after that, if you have any other question, it's not in the list, you can ask freely and we try to reply and solve the doubt. So one of the most common question is, does Combi Pro Max provide a double neutral and protector connection when backup operation? The answer is no, because Combi Pro Max only makes that link between neutral and the protective conductor when the MCB it's open. So it's making that connection in your isolated installation. So it's not a risk of a double link in the neutral and the PE conductor. As you can see in the small diagram I put in the presentation, only when the Combi Pro Max is open, the neutral and the PE are connected together, just in the isolated part of the installation. Another question is what happens when the demanded energy in the backup mode is higher than the energy that the solar panel can provide in that moment. This is not something exactly related but with Combi Pro Max, but it's something people usually ask. This depends on the inverter. The most of the inverters will stop backup production and then try to generate again. If the power demanded is still higher than what they can provide, they will repeat the cycle. If not, they will start generating in backup and they will stay without problem. Another question is, it's only full backup available with Combi Pro Max? As we already saw with the Luis' explanation, it's not the only. We can also do critical loads installation. It's only depend on what part of your installation you connect in the low side of Combi Pro Max. If you connect the whole house or the whole home, you will have a full backup. If you just connect some loads like the freezer or the lights or something, it's a critical loads installation. Combi Pro Max will be valid for both installation. Is there any risk if the user reconnects the MCB while working on backup mode? it's not, because the backup enable signal is mechanically attached to the position of the MCB. If the MCB is down, the signal is valid. If the MCB is up, the signal is invalid and will never give the signal to the inverter. So if the user try to reconnect the installation to the grid, it will automatically disable the backup working operation in the inverter. So there's no risk for the inverter. There's no risk for the people who are working on the grid, for example. I have just installed Combi Pro Max. How can test if everything works fine? You can do by switching the mode switch of Combi Pro Max. In the A position, it's in automatic mode, so Combi Pro Max will work automatically. But if you switch to the B position, it will enter the test mode, so it will treat the MCB, connects neutral to the PE conductor on the isolated installation, and then enable the backup signal. If everything is properly set up, it will enable the backup mode of the inverter, and it will provide power to the connected load. In the test mode, the MCB cannot be reconnected manually. If you try to reconnect manually, it will trip again. So you have now switch the mode switch to the A position, and it will automatically reconnect to the grid. Here you can see a small picture showing the switch on the Combi Pro Max. We don't only have a single phase Combi Pro Max, but also 3 phases Combi Pro Max. It's valid for the same inverters in the 3 phases of the same inverters we saw in the list. As Luis says, we are currently developing the 80 amps, 100 amp, and 125 amps versions of Combi Pro. They will be ready by the second semester of this year, after we end all the testing and certification. And for the last common question, is Combi Pro Max compatible with installation with batteries? Of course, yes. Some inverters allow you to work in backup mode without batteries. Some others require to have a battery to work in backup mode, but Combi Pro Max will give the signal to the inverter, and it's now the inverter who decides it can work in backup mode or not. We always recommend working with batteries, because sometimes the solar production is not enough, or if the blackout is on the night, you will not have any power. So we always recommend the use of batteries. Also, in that case, with batteries, you can use the full power of the inverter. Without batteries, you are limited to the solar production in that moment, but without batteries, you can combine the power from the batteries and the power provided by the solar panels, and use the full power, the full capability of the inverter. So if you have any other question, feel free to ask now, or I can also give, or Shane can also give